every type of meditation that can allow a person spiritual enlightenment, transcendence, alternation of consciousness, a deeper perspective on life, Yisro went and explored it and followed it till the end. He was the master of Avodah Zarah. When he finally came to realize the truth of Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, when he finally came to realize the truth of Torah, the truth of mitzvahs, the truth of Yiddishkeit, Yisro said, there's nobody who can appreciate Yiddishkeit like me. You know why? Because I have eaten the other grass. Because I have been on the other side. Because I know what it's all about. I came to Yiddishkeit from its antithesis. I came to Yiddishkeit after tasting everything else. You want your son to be really inspired. You want your son to be really turned on. Zok Chidushei Harim. Let him worship Avodah Zarah. Let him see what there is in Avodah Zarah. Let him learn that it's futile, that it's vain, that it's worthless, that it's meaningless. And then he'll be able to embrace Torah with a full heart. He won't be standing inside and looking outside. He won't be wondering what is Avodah Zarah like. Give it to him. Let him have Avodah Zarah. Let him realize what's there in Avodah Zarah. I will guide him. And then he'll be able to come back to Yiddishkeit. That's what the Chidushei Harim says. That's what Yisro wanted. Moshe disagreed. Moshe said, no, I don't want Gershom to be raised that way. I don't want Gershom to worship Avodah Zarah, experience it, and then realize it's nothing and come to Yiddishkeit with a new depth, with a new appreciation. Why? Why didn't Moshe want it? Based on various sources that discuss these matters, we can perhaps give 4 reasons why Moshe Rabbeinu would refuse. Maybe more, but at least 4. Number 1, Moshe would say, tell Yisro, this is great for you. Somebody who grew up in Avodah Zarah, somebody who is confused, somebody who has been searching their whole life. There's no question that there's a special appreciation for Yisro's contribution, for Yisro's discovery, for the Ata Yadaiti Ki Gadol Hashem Mikol Elokim. There's no question. But once you have discovered the truth, once you know what the emes is, once you know what's reality, why feed your children with myths? Why feed your children with ideas that are alien to the truth of existence, to their own truth, to the truth of their own souls, to the truth of reality? If you're insecure with your faith, if you're inside looking out, you're insecure. Since you're insecure, you project that insecurity in your children. Indeed, it's not a good idea because the isolation is coming from insecurity and the child feels it. And you will almost compel him to go somewhere else, or at least to look somewhere else. But Moshe Rabbeinu tells Yisro, you know it's the truth. I know it's the truth. Give the truth to your children. Not because you're fearful, not because you feel that you have to lock him up, or isolate him, or close him up. It's done in an open way. It's done in a mature way. It's done in a deep way. Because you really know this is the emes. Why waste his time with the antithesis of truth? But furthermore, Moshe Rabbeinu says, not everybody will be as lucky as you, Yisro, to go into the lion's den and emerge free, emerge liberated. A human being is complex. A human being is multifaceted. A human being is multidimensional. What happens if my son gets stuck in the Avodah Zarah? What happens if he gets submerged in the quagmire of Avodah Zarah and he has a difficult way to come, finds it difficult to come out? And even if he comes out one day, what about all those years where he may do things that are very counterproductive? He may harm himself. He may become demoralized. He may do himself injustice. What happens if he gets lost? Especially a human being is not just an intellectual, abstract computer. A human being has many instincts, many habits. Some of our instincts are unhealthy. Some of our instincts are evil. Some of our instincts are very, very selfish and petty. Does everybody have such a large mind and such a large heart to really be able to transcend bias, to be able to transcend ulterior motives, to be able to ignore their taivas, their cravings, their dispositions, their addictions, and know truth when they see it and be ready to go away from an easier life in which they can follow all their habits and instincts just because they discover truth? Number 3, Moshe Rabbeinu might be arguing, there are certain truths that are beyond human comprehension. Truth of Yisro is the truth that Yisro came through experimentation. Hence it's a truth that is relevant and relative to his own identity, to his own mind, to his own heart, to his own experience. The power of Amunah, the power of tradition, is it includes truths that are beyond the human logic, that are beyond human comprehension. If God is real, it's not only the God that we fashion in our own image. We were created in God's image. God wasn't created in our image. Allow your child to be able to taste the God that transcends our own image. And finally, Moshe Rabbeinu says it's impossible that the Avodah Zarah you wish to subject my son to will not leave a powerful impact on him. An impact that may continue throughout the years of his life in a very profound way. I don't want him to be affected by this. Which is the reason the Chidush Yorim says Halacha does not allow a Jew to be mevatel Avodah Zarah. There's a din called bittul Avodah Zarah. If a non-Jew, a Gentile, creates a statue, he turns a piece of wood, say, or an image into an idol, he could be at mevatel. He could nullify it. Only a Gentile can do it, not a Jew. Why doesn't Allah allow a Jew to do it? So one of the reasons that he gives is because the very act of bittul avodah zarah is already the acknowledging of it. In other words, I'm nullifying it. Why do you have to nullify it? Because there's such a power called avodah zarah, and the Torah doesn't want a Jew even to have such a relationship to avodah zarah. So Moshe tells Yisro, you want Gershom to go study avodah zarah in order to disprove it. That itself leaves an impact. I want my son to be connected to his soul. Completely, fully. Not because I'm insecure. Not because I'm fearful. Because I believe that this is the true design of a human being. This is the truth of life. This is the truth of reality. I want him to live a harmonious, holistic life. Not a life in which he becomes fragmented and broken and dichotomized between who he truly is. Which is a reflection of God, a spark of God, a continuum of God. Plunged into the world of Avodah Zarah, there's now a fragmentation in his life, which will leave an impact. Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't want that. According to this, we can have a deeper insight, at least one homiletical interpretation back in the Medrash of Parah Aduma. The difference between Yisro's approach and Moshe's approach is obviously the difference between reaching Yiddishkeit through experimentation or through Amunah, through tradition. Through the Jew knowing that this is the blueprint that God, the creator of the world, gave to the Jew. This is the best way to live the life, a program for life that is consistent with the true design of the universe, with the true design of human nature, with the true purpose of existence. Yisro says, no, work it out for yourself. Taste different philosophies. Make mistakes, work it out for yourself. The difference, of course, practically would be how we relate to chukim, how we relate to super-rational mitzvahs, which you can't reach through experimentation. Your logic doesn't bring you there. Yisro has difficulties with them. Moshe obviously has no difficulties with them. The quintessential chayk, the quintessential super-rational law is Parah Aduma, the red heifer. Zois chukas ha-Torah, Parah Aduma. Shlomo HaMelech says, "Amarti achakma v'yirechoyka mimeni." Medrash Rabbi Parshas Chukah says even Shlomo HaMelech wondered on the reasons of Parah Aduma, and yet Rashi in Parshas Chukas, from the Chazal from Reb Moshe Adarshan, gives us a perspective, and he says the Parah Aduma, the red heifer, came to atone for the Chet HaEgel, for the sin of the golden calf. So Hashem says, "Tavayim u'tikaneach tzayas b'na." Let the mother come and wipe up the dirt, the human fertilizer of her son. Let the cow come and wipe up the tsoya, the dirt that b'na, the calf, created through the Chet HaEgel, through the sin of the golden calf. That is why we offer the red heifer and we burn it and we use its ashes to cleanse the person. Essentially, this is a form of atonement for the sin of the golden calf. Who atones for the calf? Its mother, the cow. When can a cow give birth? A cow gives birth from the age of 3. The age of 2, a cow can't give birth. So according to the opinion of the Chachamim in Masechta Parah, that Parah Aduma, you have to wait till the cow is 3. The logic is lovely. At 3 she becomes eligible to be a mother. Let the mother clean up the dirt of the offspring of the calf. But according to the Belezer, that Parah Aduma is even at the age of 2. At the age of 2 she can't give birth, so this rationale of Parah Aduma is gone, it's deleted. Moshe Rabbeinu heard this word, Rebbe Lezer. Hashem was quoting Rebbe Lezer's perspective that Parah Aduma is 2. So it remains a chayk, it remains something super rational. Moshe Rabbeinu said, Yehi ratzon she'emei chalotzai. May it be your will, this should be one of my children versus Yisro's children. In other words, Moshe's children is the child that's raised with the perspective of Moshe Rabbeinu, not with the perspective of Yisro. The perspective of Moshe Rabbeinu embraces a chayk, a super rational commandment, as much as it embraces a logical commandment. And Hashem says, indeed, Shema Echad Eliezer, this is your son Eliezer. Gershom, the first son, was given to be raised Yisro's path. Eliezer, the second son, is Elekei Avi B'Yezri. This is the difference between the two names. What does it say in this week's parsha? Why did he name Gershom Gershom? Ki Omar Geira Yisi Be'eretz Nachriya. He said, I am a stranger, I was a stranger in a foreign land. The second name, Eliezer, Elekei Avi B'Yezri. The God of my father has helped me. The first child represented to Moshe Rabbeinu the fact that he's a stranger in a foreign land. This is not his land. Avodah shezara loi. Back to the Gemara. It's an avodah that's alien to him. Eretz Nachriya, it's foreign. The philosophy of Yisro is foreign to him. Why did he name his son Gershom? He's a stranger in a foreign land, not his child. The answer is because this child embodied Moshe being alienated from his own philosophy. The second son, Eliezer, Elekei Avi B'Yezri, Keliazar, the God of my father has helped me. And the emphasis here is the God of my father. Yisro rejected the God of our father. Yisro said, you have to find God. You can't rely on the fact that your father found God. You can't rely on the fact that your grandfather found God. You have to find God. Zekeli v'yanvehu. Elekei Avi v'aroim imenu. Zakta Shalah HaKadosh. Zekeli. Some people can turn to God and say, He's my God. Va'anvehu. To one word, combining to anivuhu. Him and I are one. Elekei Avi, if He's the God of my father, v'aroim imenu, He remains exalted. Yisro rejected that. Moshe understood Yisro's position, but Moshe also understood profoundly the value of Elekei Avi. Not only Elekeinu, Elekei Aviseinu. That's the second son. So Hashem tells him in Medrash Parshas Chukas, Hadu diksiv shem echad Eliezer. That child, Rebbe Lezer, who says Parah Aduma is 2 years old, not 3 years old, embracing the idea that mitzvahs are not only rational but also super rational. This is represented by Moshe's child. This is the child raised with Moshe's kedusha, with Moshe's tara, with Moshe's dveikus and emes, shem echad Eliezer. Yisro disagreed. Yisro was telling Moshe Rabbeinu if he doesn't experiment by himself, he will never be really moved by Judaism. It's never him, it was not his decision. Moshe Rabbeinu said, allow your children, Yisro said, allow your children to make their own decisions. Let them explore life. Life is diverse. Let them explore life. If not, they may always doubt. They may always ask themselves, what if I was raised elsewhere? Moshe Rabbeinu calls this avodah zara, avodah shehi zara loi. Idolatry, it's not. Yisro didn't want to raise him to idolatry, he wanted to raise him to Yiddishkeit through avodah zara. For Moshe Rabbeinu, this is alien. Because what Moshe was telling Yisro is, you're making a mistake. It depends on the approach. If you raise your children in an environment of Torah, infused with Torah, but they feel insecure about it. They feel you're insecure. They feel it's a burden for you. They feel you're not an open person. You're closed. You're scared of questions. You're scared of dilemmas. You're scared of challenges. You're right, Yisrael. They will often resent that. But if a person infuses his children with a love of Torah, that's not based on closed-mindedness. It's based on the fact that he had the unique opportunity to experience his soul. When he experiences his soul, when his soul is alive, he feels, he knows with every fiber of his being that Torah nourishes him. Torah inspires him. Torah elevates him. Torah gives him a depth of life unparalleled in any other experience. This Jew infuses his children with a love of Torah that is profound, that is real. Herbert Weiner was a Reform rabbi for many years. As gesund in his book, 9.5 Mystics, he describes a conversation he had with the Rebbe. I think in 1955, he went into the Rebbe one night late, I think midnight or past midnight, at 770 Eastern Parkway in Brooklyn. And before his audience with the Rebbe, he was schmoozing in the Zal, he was schmoozing in the Beis Medrash, in the Shul, in the synagogue, with the yeshiva students of the yeshiva of Taim Chitmimim. And when he went into the Rebbe, he says, you know, there's something that's bothering me. When I look at the faces of those students, I feel a naivete. They're naive. And I want to ask you, don't you think it's unfair of you, their leader, to deprive them from the diversity that this world has to offer, from the colorfulness that diverse cultures have to offer? Why deprive them from this? Why do you insist that they remain naive people, closed people? They don't know about anything else. And the Rebbe responded to Herbert Weiner, and he said, what you see in their faces is not naivete. What you see in their faces is the absence of a split in life. What you see is a wholesomeness. You're observing people who are not dichotomized. They're not torn between various philosophies, impulses, doctrines, perspectives, paradigms. There is a wholesome, holistic purpose that defines their life. There's a unity in their life. There's a big difference between naivete and wholesomeness. Naivete uses naivete to protect itself. Wholesomeness is secure. Yisro wasn't Jewish. Yisro on that level did not know about what Moshe was saying, that the Jew has the ability to experience the neshama, the godliness within him, within her, and thus see Yiddishkeit from the perspective of the soul. And this was the debate. And for the first son, Moshe agreed. Gershom, Ger Hayisi Baretz Nachriya. Based on all of this, let's now go back to our original questions. Why the Parsha of Matan Torah is given the name of Yisro, and why the first half of this Parsha tells the story of Yisro. Matan Torah, of course, represents the idea of Eliezer. Elokei Avi Be'ezri. Vayered Hashem al Har Sinai. God came down to the world. He descended on Mount Sinai and he communicated to the Jewish people his word. Anoichi Hashem Elokecha. I am God. Asher Yitzichem Eretz Mitzrayim. Or the Rambam puts it in Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah, Neinu Ro v'lo Zoros, Neinu Shamu v'lo Yachid. Our eyes saw it and it wasn't a stranger. Our ears heard it and it wasn't a stranger. We say in the blessing of Torah, Asher Nosan Lonu Torah Semes. He gave us the Torah of truth. V'chaye yolam Nata b'seichenu, and a life of eternity implanted within us. Matan Torah is the creator of the world coming to the Jewish people and saying, here, let us look at each other face to face. Let me tell you my perspective on the world. Let me tell you why this world exists. Anoichi Hashem Elokecha. And let me give you my blueprint for existence, how a human being should live, how a Jew should live in order to fulfill the purpose of his or her existence, in order to bring the world to what it was supposed to be, in order to live a life which is consistent and in sync with its true character, its true purpose, and its true design and identity, rather than live a life which betrays the true inner quest and nature of the human soul, which is divine, either on the Jewish level, or on the non-Jewish level. Every person was created in the image of God. And when a human being's life is detached from the image of God that is at the core of his being, that life often lacks the serenity, the tranquility, the wholesomeness that comes from the absence of fragmentation and being torn. So Matan Torah is our shenasan lonu Torahs emes. But in a very subtle way, Judaism is conveying to us a profound message by naming this parashas Yisro. Because the Torah is telling you, I know I'm giving you a Torah, and I know I'm establishing 613 laws, 248 positive commandments, and 365 negative commandments. I am giving you the Aseres HaDibros, the 10 commandments etched in stone. I am appointing Moshe Rabbeinu as the Navi, as the prophet, to communicate to you the whole Torah, a divine Torah that is eternal, that is timeless, and that is unchangeable. But the name of this whole parsha is Yisro. It's Judaism's subtle way of conveying one more message. Never forget. Yisro's demand. Never forget Yisro's voice. That Judaism is challenged by the threat that for so many it will become meaningless on a personal level. Because here we can encounter, after all that we discussed, the great advantage of Yisro vis-a-vis himself. Namely, Yisro was not part of the community. Yisro didn't belong to the institutions. Yisro wasn't part of the system. Yisro's Judaism was therefore fresh, personal, meaningful. How does Rashi begin the parasha? Vayishma Yisro, Yisro heard, Zok Rashi, Mashmua Shama Uba. What is it that Yisro heard that compelled him to come? Think about the question. Why did Yisro join the Jewish people? I don't ask that question about every Jew. They grew up with it. This is what they knew. This is their daddy, this is their mommy, this is their Zaidi, this is their Bubby, this is their shul, this is their destiny. This is what they grew up with, this is what they breathed from the day they were born. Yisro arrives. Mashmua Shama Uba. What is it that moved Yisro? Yisro was moved by something. His imagination was stirred. His heart was on fire. His soul was aglow. Rashi wants to know what was it. What moved Yisro? He didn't come Shabbos morning because it's part of the culture in which he grew up in. Because the cholent is good. Because the kishke doesn't taste bad. Because there's nothing else to do. Because he didn't want to aggravate his parents. Because he needed a good shidduch for his children. Yisro wasn't part of that. Rather, the voice of Torah spoke to him. It engaged him, it fired him up, it interested him, it was meaningful for him. So before Matan Torah, the first half is Yisro came. The name of the parasha is Yisro. Because in a subtle way, Judaism is counterbalancing itself by always reminding us of our great challenge. We have a Torah, we have a mitzvah. But don't forget Yisroi. Make sure that Judaism remains fresh, alive. Let it move you. You must make sure you find yourself in it and you develop an intimate relationship with it. So often is the case that once upon a time Judaism moved us. Once upon a time Torah challenged us. Once upon a time a mitzvah addressed us personally. But then after 10, 20, 30 years, it's just ritual, it's just dogma. It's just daily routines, the ongoing program. It doesn't challenge you anymore. And a Judaism that stops challenging you is not alive. A Torah that ceases to challenge you is not fresh. A mitzvah that ceases to broaden your horizons, to be able to instill within you a quest to go deeper and deeper, is a Judaism that is often lifeless. It's not the b'chol yoyim yu beinecha kachadoshim. Moshe Rabbeinu debated Yisrael about the education of his children, but the Rebbeinu Shalom still conveys to us in a subtle way that, coupled with the power and eternity and timelessness of Torah, based on the fact that it was given by Hashem, who is Nitzchi, who is timeless, who is the most deeply in tune with the truth of the world and the truth of the human being. Never forget that subtle voice of Yisroi, demanding from every person to ask himself, Ma shmua shama uba, what is moving you today about Torah, about Yiddishkeit? Have a wonderful evening.